So today's topic is going to teach you how to make animal feet and take them from looking derpy to downright awesome, and it starts right now. What's up, y'all? This is the Art Mentor. My name is Sean, and today I'm going to give you a tutorial on how to make animal feet. Now, this is a really small part of making a really terrific looking animal, but I promise you this, that if you don't do this right and you don't do it well, then it's just going to look weird and derpy and oversimplified. So today, I'm going to give you a tutorial on how to make 5 different types of animal feet that I see most commonly done. So here we go. We're going to be learning about how to create paws, hooves from 2 different types of creatures, both horses and other hoofy friends. We're gonna make pads, big animals like elephants and rhinos and such, and bird claws. So y'all, here we go. So y'all, let's kick off this tutorial with how to create paws. This is the most common one I always see, and it's often very oddly done. So you definitely don't want to go ahead and just take a big rounded piece of clay and cut some lines into it and call it a paw. No, that's gonna look terrible. The way I always recommend that you start off a paw, and you're gonna see me repeat this with a few other versions of this throughout this video, is I recommend that you go ahead and you take a rounded rectangle, and then you should definitely add on each of the knuckles that you're going to need for that paw. Those are again gonna act as the fingers. If you go ahead and you actually add them on, it's going to create a lot better, more realistic looking depth. So the basic shape for each knuckle is going to be sort of a long oval that's going to curve around it. Then you can go ahead and you just kind of blend it in, definitely score and attach it for the bigger versions of this as well. Another thing with a paw is that most pawed animals are going to need a dew claw, which is going to be that funny little claw in the back. Now that's only going to be visible on the front paws. It will never be on the back paws. It's sort of their thumb, to think of it like that. So once I have attached all of that, then I'm just going to define. I definitely like to run a wooden tool in between, a small brush in between too, just so again to define that curvature in between each of the knuckles. Now, if you're going to see the bottom of a paw, you definitely want to do the pads on it too. Now the pads, the size, the thicknesses, the lengths and all that, it's going to vary greatly depending on what type of creature. Like for example, a cat versus a dog versus a bear, each one's going to be totally different. And then as a final step, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add claws. Now my tried and true method of adding on claws is going to be that you should definitely just, and you'll see me do this in this video too, is I'm just going to kind of roll them back and forth between my fingers where I need it to be a nice hard sharp point. And there you go. Now whenever you're making a paw, you always want to make sure that you have each knuckle individually constructed so that you get some nice individual depth there. Otherwise it looks really derpy when you just go ahead and cut straight into it. I find adding on to be a lot easier. And always don't forget about the dew claw. These will only be visible on the front paws, not on the back paws. So that's really important to keep in mind too with this. Now this is modeled after a cat paw. You're going to see some significant differences in some other furry animals like this, such as a dog or bear. So for example, with a dog is going to have significantly bigger pads at the bottom. They're going to have definitely some wider, broader, longer claws, especially on a bear. It's just going to be a really big mass that would be up here as well. A big, strong claw is probably going to get overlapped by some hair. But overall, yeah, this is how you want to go about making a nice little fuzzy creature paw. Now my next animal paw I'm going to teach you how to make is a horse hoof. So with this one, I've definitely seen it oversimplified a lot as well. It just kind of looks like a big straight cylinder that comes down and people cut a line into it and call it a day. But we want to create better depth than that, y'all. And that's why you're here today to learn how to do this. So the first thing you definitely want to do is create all the different varying curvature that you're going to see from all the way down to the bottom of the hoof and all the way up to the ankle of the creature like you're seeing me do here. You kind of think of this creature as well as many other animals like it are sort of like standing on their tippy toes, and that's exactly what their anatomy calls for on this. So once I go ahead and do that, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add on the hoof, which you'll see me use a coil for. I want to create some level of depth difference too, so you'll see me take a loop tool and just kind of carve it down just so that the actual hair going up to the hoof itself is going to be a higher level of depth than the hoof. You also see me start to sculpt out the bottom and the back of this as well, because I don't want it to just look plain and basic, especially when I turn it around from the back side of it. The back side should not just be a hard kind of cylindrical shape, it does have some depth into it. It has some specific areas that you would definitely need to cut into. Okay. So here we have our tried and true horse paw. And with this too, one little note, I noticed this after I was done shooting, but I noticed that I was accidentally looking at a goat hoof. So horses do not have this, but you definitely want to make sure that you create this curvature that's going to happen towards the bottom of its foot down here. You want to definitely make sure that you kind of undercut, cut into here in order to create this sort of overlap shape right there. And there you go, you have a nice little horsey paw that you're going to see there. Giddy up. Hey, how am I doing so far? Let me know down below in the comments. And don't forget that if you want to help support my content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so that you get notified whenever I push out content like this. So let's continue. Next, let's jump into how to make a bird claw. Now with these, it's pretty simple. However, though, in its simplicity, people lose the complexity necessary for it. So for example, you're gonna go ahead and definitely use a lot of coils to start out this structure as well. But you really need to take a good look at its curvature, and it's gonna vary a lot depending on what type of creature. But I'll tell you, the number one area that people forget to add a lot of curvature to will be the actual toes themselves. They should not just be straight lines. They should have peaks and valleys in them, okay? You also want to really take a look at the spacing in between, the angles that happen in between each toe there. You're also going to want to make sure that you kind of thicken up the top of the foot area as well. You're going to see me start to do this. I'm going to do a lot of it with my hands. I'll do a little bit with my tools just to get some hard, firm angles in there. And then finally, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add on those claws. Those claws should hook down. Make sure they're not going straight, they're not going up, they're not going down. They should create a nice hard hook down. So here's our lovely bird claw with this. This is one I see typically oversimplified, just way too much. It's usually just like a straight coil. You always want to make sure that you create this depth in here where it goes up and down, because again, this is modeled just like your finger. Your finger is not straight, it has peaks and valleys in it. So you want to do the same thing with a bird claw too. This one is a little meaty. This would probably be more along the lines of a turkey, a vulture, something of that nature. Now, one thing you want to notice about the claws too is that they're always going to kind of hook down. They're never just going to go straight out. They're not going to go up. They're not going to go straight down. They're going to hook up. And you'll see that across the board on all of these as well. Definitely make sure too that this part right here, which would kind of be similar to like the palm of your hand here, you want to make sure that this is beefed up a little bit too. Otherwise, it's just going to look real silly and derpy. Just have a coil and then 4 other coils. Now, one thing also worth mentioning with claws is that the structure of these is going to vary very, very differently depending on what species of bird you're going to do. For example, some birds are going to have this back claw more over here, more in line with the other 3. Some of them are also only going to have 3 of these as well. It really depends on what avian species we're talking about, but there you go. Nice little birdie claw. Now, to contrast the horse hoof with this style of hoof, this is going to be for some other creatures such as pigs, deer, giraffes, and the like. So with this one versus the horse hoof, you're not going to see the toes come down and join together. Instead, what we're going to see is we're going to see 2 different toes, and then they're going to split off. So with this, whenever I add on individual toes, you'll always see me pushing for it. I like that because then it gives me a realistic overhang, realistic depth for it as well. You want to take a hard look at your animal shape of the front 2 hooves there. And then also, they're going to have a couple dew-claw looking hooves in the back as well. Now with this type of shape, it does again look like it's just standing on top of its tippy toes, and that's quite accurate. So you make sure that you do that too. And again, make sure that you have the proper curvature going from the bottom of the toe, how it comes up, it rounds out, it goes in, and then it comes out again towards its ankle there. All right, and that's how you're gonna make your second style of hoof. So a little bit different from the horse hoof. If you're gonna do anything like a pig, a deer, a gazelle, a giraffe, or a goat like this, then you're gonna find that their anatomical structure is a little bit different. First off, they're gonna have more of a split in their toes. They do actually have 2 toes, so definitely make sure that you see that here. They also have kind of 2 little
kind of dew claws in the back there as well. I always think these look kind of silly, almost like a high heel, right? Don't they? Things that you definitely want to make sure that you hone in on is the curvature happening right around here. Again, this would kind of be like the upper arch, like top arch of your foot, similar to ours. They're going to point a little bit more. Again, you would see this anatomical structure on animals such as pigs, goats, deer, gazelle, and some more friendly furry creatures like that too.
And our last style of animal feet that I'm going to teach you about in this video today is going to be a pad. So this would be for our very large, friendly animals, rhinos, elephants, hippos, and the like there. So with this, I'm going to start off with a very big, large piece, and then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add on and push in for the toes, just like before. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my thumb, or I can use a tool too if it's smaller than this, and just push it wherever those toenails are going to go. I'm going to tell you that a really common issue I see very frequently with this style of animal foot is that people are going to go ahead and just kind of draw a line for where each of the toes go. And for those toenails, I'm going to advise you, please make sure that you definitely sculpt them out from it and not into it. Okay, so with this, I push in and then I create the toes, and I add them on. I'm also going to add a coil around it just to show, again, kind of just like on your fingers, how you have that little piece of skin around the top of your nail. You'll see this is the same concept here I'm going to apply to this as well. So once I go ahead and do that, I'm going to make sure I just kind of undercut into there. I'm going to draw that line in there with a couple different tools just to define that out all nicely. I'm going to define that out all nicely as such. And there you go. Now you have a nice, realistic looking, depth-friendly animal pad.
So when I started making this pad, I actually intended this to be an elephant pad. However, an elephant pad would definitely have a lot more mass up and around here. So this has now turned into more of like a rhinoceros or even a hippo pad. So with this, yeah, it's going to be predominantly flat at the bottom. You're going to see the toe sticking out. You want to make sure that you add on this little ridge as you watch me do this too. It just kind of shows how the toenail kind of sticks out from it as well. All right, so these are just some important parts that you want to make sure of whenever you're going to make any type of elephant pad. Again, elephants, rhinos, hippos, any big mammals of that nature.
So if you like today's tutorial, definitely make sure that you share it with somebody to help them out so that they can learn how to do it properly too. Hey, do you have a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future video? Make sure to drop it down below in the comments. And if you like this type of content, definitely make sure to like and subscribe to help support my channel. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. This has been the Art Mentor. See you next time.